Well, hello and welcome to another podcast. Amber,
Yes.
how are things in your world?
Wow. I mean, lots of really great things going on, and also lots of change, lots of complexity coming into the fall, or not officially fall yet. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it's fall, it's fall." And I'm like, "No. When kids go back to school, it's not fall. It's technically fall on, the equinox or the, when I think it's the 21st of September, right? But we all like to think as soon as the pumpkin spice lattes are back at Starbucks, it's fall. And it's not. We're in that, the bridge. I was talking to my kid the other day, and they do a lot of work in Indian culture and sort of the ancient practices of yoga. They're a yoga teacher, and they were just saying that these are actually seasons that are marked in how humans behave as well as how the body adjusts. And there are shoulder seasons to the main seasons. And they were reminding me that this is a time to get sick. Not that we should, but that
Oh,
this is where we see a lot of illness in the changing of the season. So, yeah.
okay.
So I was taking a little few extra vitamins, thinking of myself wanting to do a little more self-care. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that does actually lead well into today's conversation. So thank you.
Well, I was gonna say I still don't know what it's about. So
All right. Well, what I wanted to talk about today in the field of projects was actually project gatherings. So when we start
Oh,
talking about
okay.
coming together for conferences,
Oh,
you
I just was at a conference.
I happen to know that you've just done a series
Yes.
of conferences
Yes.
and thought so as you talk about coming together and
Mhm.
getting sick, yes, being in a room with a lot of people,
Yep. Mhm.
300 at a crack, sometimes more.
Yes.
Maybe talk about the value of conferences and what you found in your experience from bringing a whole bunch of like-minded people together
Mhm.
and why that benefits you or the people who are coming.
Wow. Well, this is a topic near and dear to my heart. And shout out to absolutely every individual that was with me at the PMI Region 2 and 3 Leadership Conference in Ottawa last week. It was such an amazing time. So I'm Region 1 mentor from Pacific Northwest with PMI, but we actually, a group of us from Canada, we sort of piggybacked on this conference. And wow, am I ever glad we did. Um, I'm certainly biased when it comes to PMI events. And the reason is, uh, I always give the little joke that if you cut me, I bleed a little bit PMI. But let me tell you why. I do that because I have invested and volunteered with this global organization for a decade now. And what I have given, I have received back tenfold. And it is not because the organization itself has given me anything. It is because of my willingness to show up and be present in these moments where we've gathered and to be open to growing, to learning, and to changing, to rub shoulders with others who hopefully, and I would say most often, have the same attitude, which is we don't gather together to pat each other on the back and impress ourselves, although we do that. We do it because there's so much yet to learn and grow from. And that's exactly what happens when we gather together. Hashtag PMI, better together. I love the whole notion of when like-minded professionals get together. And people often ask me, like, "Well, so what's the big deal with PMI?" And I say, really, it's not about the association. That's not to say that the PMI isn't great. It's just that anywhere that you can gather with like-minded professionals and do that with this sort of idea of I'm going there to learn, to grow, and also to share my learning and growth with others, that is going to be an opportunity to really transform your career and your professional path. So for me, it's been PMI. And when we gather together, I think what happens is first and foremost, we're humans. So, from the air conditioned, temperature controlled conference rooms to the comfortable chairs to the shout out to whoever at the Region 2 3 conference thought it was a good idea to put Jolly Rancher candies on the middle of the table. It was an excellent idea. It's those creature comforts. And then, of course, we had wonderful food and there was coffee flowing. And these types of things, they make all the difference. Because as humans, when we all kind of come together, Yeah, we're professionals, but we're humans first. And creating an environment that's comfortable and that sort of meets our needs physically really enables us to relax, uh, perhaps even have more ears to hear what we're going to, hear from the keynote speakers, the panelists, and the breakout sessions. And then this idea of, oh, like I do similar work than all of the people sitting at the table I'm at. Does it mean that we have the same job? No. Does it mean we work at the same place? Absolutely not. But what do we have in common? In some way, shape, or form, we're project managers. Trained to be, yes, or practicing, yes, and all of that kind of creates this point. It's kind of like a plateau where we're all standing on the same plateau and reaching the higher heights. We do it together, and we do it quicker because we already have sort of a base of knowledge. And that specifically with PMI and this conference I was at is project management. We also, the focus of this conference was ignite the flow. And what is that? Well, it's igniting ourselves, it's igniting others, it's thinking about how we have the opportunity to be inspirers and to be inspired. And in doing that, that really means it is so important for us to see ourselves in others and for others to see themselves in us. It's powerful. I have no doubt that you coming from a military background very much understand this even more so than I do because I see that. I was with a lot of military project managers at this conference, and that's like another version of like-minded. Everyone's on the same level. They've had similar education or they've had similar culture experience, and then within that military, that gives you all sort of the same point to which to kind of grow beyond together. And I think it's powerful as humans. It gives us so much benefit. But I won't speak for you. Why don't you tell us?
Well, it's interesting you go into we're all there as like-minded because it's true. We are all there as like-minded. But the question I was about to ask you, and again, you set me up beautifully for these things, was around you and I have been at a whole series of conference over the last 10
Mhm,
years where
mhm,
we've seen each other lots. What I'll say about this, and this is where it came back to right there, was when you're in a room,
mhm.
and I'll just speak about you, not others, but I'll speak about you.
Okay.
You own part of that room and you become a celebrity, if you will, in the room. Now, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean. What I mean by that is focal attention.
Mm,
Okay. Paparazzi goes after people who create focal attention, right?
yeah.
We want to know more about that.
Mm,
When you're at a conference, not everybody feels the same way
yes.
around focal
Yeah.
attention.
Mhm.
In the same way in a military room, I'm listening to the subject matter expert at any given time, but I'm not given rank still plays an
Oh,
unwritten
you're
rule in
right.
attention
Mhm.
because we got to put more attention where the rank sits
Mm,
on this side than that side. And so
mm,
I guess maybe you've had this attention experience. What's
mhm,
that been like for you? Or
mhm.
maybe what's it like for someone who doesn't have that or wants to approach you?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I have to say, I'm not always conscious of that. I have been in a public speaking space for most of my professional career in different ways, shapes, and forms. Obviously, in a formal way right now with PMI because I have a mentor role. Yeah, in the room, if people know that about me, it does make me maybe a little bit more attractional to them. However, I'm human. I'm like everybody else. I I recognize that hierarchy exists. Case in point, we had some PMI staff with us at the conference, and that's awesome. And it's so wonderful to have them. At the same time, they're humans too. And I think the beauty of spending what essentially for us was 3 days together in conference is someone asked me yesterday, they said, well, how was it? And I said, it's full on. And they don't have a similar experience. And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, "No, like, I get up at 6 AM. I'm present with humans by about 7:30 AM. And I literally am never not with other people in that professional context till usually about midnight, and that's 3 days straight. And I might get 15 minutes to run back to my room to use the restroom and freshen up a bit. But beyond that, I am on the whole time. It's exhausting. And what I try to practice is presence with every moment, which means I'm actually creating a bit of vulnerability where I'm prepared for at any point a new conversation to come to me or for me to seek it and it take me down a very different tangent. And that practicing presence means I can get even more exhausted. And then there's also the speaking, because obviously that's also a role that I played. So I did speak one of those days. I was on a panel another day, and there were many meetings that I attended where I was quite vocal in the meetings. So yeah, the hierarchy exists, but I think for those that I see that were new first time faces in the room, they kind of come in and there's a bit of a doe-eyed deer in the headlight look, where they're, wow, this is a lot, and everybody seems to be talking a language that I may or may not fully know yet. And I it has been so long, Martin, since I have been one of those individuals in any context. And so I often forget what that feels like. What I will say, certainly about the conference I was at and most of the conferences that I attend, we're intentional about working to make those individuals feel welcome. Part of what it means to be involved with PMI, our culture values, we have 5 culture and values. One of them is to be welcoming. What does it mean to be welcoming? Well, it means that we need to be conscious of the people, the hierarchy in the room, and then those that perhaps are feeling a little bit left of center, a little bit out of the loop. How do we make sure that they feel welcome? Part of why these days are so marathon-like is because it's not all professional. And this is the other thing that people say, well, that's you can't work all those hours. And I'm like, well, yeah, actually, you can when you eat together, when you laugh together, when you do professional development together, and then you also do entertainment together. I mean, on the second day we did this, we were having dinner at a different location. And so in order to get to dinner, they just sort of said, well, let's all walk together as a group. We're in Ottawa. It's, our nation's capital. Let's do a walking tour for about an hour, and our end destination will be the restaurant we're having dinner at. So here you have this en masse, there were probably about, I don't know, 75 of us that decided to do the walking tour, maybe even 100, and we're all walking en masse. We're not professionally developing per se on that walk, and yet we're engaging with one another. We're talking, we're noticing, oh, there's the eternal flame in front of the Parliament buildings. Oh, this is this, and of course we have people from all over. So we have a lot of Americans that joined us, and they've never been in Canada's capital before. So you're experiencing life as well as work together, as well as professional development. And it's in those moments where the newbies, I hope, feel very welcomed, because it is not about just talking work or talking shop. It's about being present and spending time together. And the time and space we spend together, all of it develops us professionally, even if we're not talking about project management, and sharing life together. And that I think is, for many conferences, that's an aspect overlooked. We think, oh no, we got to just do the work the whole time. No, actually, you've got to integrate the fun and the work together. And what happens is that no one feels like they went to work the same way. It all feels full and lovely and exciting. And as a result, you come away from a 3-day, and although you may be physically tired, you feel inspired as well as physically tired. And that inspiration can help carry a lot of ideas forward, right? The growth is in that walking away feeling inspired and having had so much fun at the same time as doing some work. So yeah, I think for me, conferences can be awesome experiences, but we got to get over ourselves. Let's remember, humans first, want to have fun, want to be inspired, and the professional part finds its way. We put a few pieces in place that will cover it, and then we let the present humans in the moment take it where it needs to go.
Thank you so much for that. What I'm really hearing in that value there is connection,
Absolutely.
because you're going for professional connection. Like, that's going to happen. But deep and meaningful connection happens in between the events, in
Yeah.
between the speaking.
Yes. Yes,
And I like
definitely.
how you brought up energy in that too, right?
Mhm.
Because you and I both receive and give energy differently. And things that for me are like, oh, that's so simple. Like, just, yeah, of course you'll talk to people till midnight. I'll walk away more energized. And sometimes I know that's different for you because we each process these things
Yeah,
differently.
definitely. And it's different for everyone. And I think that's the other thing too. Like, we need to create professional development opportunities and conferences that are accessible for everyone. Because being welcoming is not forcing everyone to like all the same thing. That is the opposite of being welcoming. Being welcoming means we create a framework and then we have easement on either side so that people can participate in how and whatever kind of fits them, and there's no sense of loss, or we're not chastising them because they don't think this was the greatest thing ever. And I think that's important too, that flexibility. um, yeah, I was raised in a professional world that really was trying to create carbon copies of other people. It was, well, this is what success looks like. And so you just emulate that. You become a duplicate of that success model, and you do everything exactly the same. And somehow that's going to give you success. And of course, although it may give you monetary success, what I have found at, you know, my mid 50s now is what it tends to take from individuals is their mental health. Their wellness factor is greatly decreased if they have not been able to find their own unique selves in the professional development of success. And this is where, being welcoming, setting the stage so that anyone can participate, there needs to be some flexibility because we are not all the same. And that's our greatest power, is our uniqueness, not our sameness. So conferences that create this sort of identity that everyone has to say the same thing, everyone has to look the same way, everyone has to say or agree to, that's not professional development. That's a cult. And I was raised in a cult. So I'm very familiar with the cult environment. And we need to be conscious to not be creating a cult, because cults don't honor individuality, they honor sameness. That's where the power comes from, because you get a bunch of humans together that believe they have sameness. It empowers them to use that sameness to do a lot of things, not all good. And that's not what I see in the conferences that I love to attend, and certainly what I see in a choice to be affiliated with PMI. It is no, it is our uniqueness and our individuality coming together to sharpen each other, to learn from each other. That is what enables us to be welcoming. And as a result, it is not a cult. I can tell you very honestly, for those perhaps even professional project managers who question, well, why would you even be associated with a global organization like that? What's the big deal? It's just cult like. You are wrong. Your impression may be that it is, but I've been on the inside for a while, and what I recognize is its greatest power is to not be that, and to welcome anyone, and then to be agile enough to change, and to adjust, and to grow. And these are all powerful, powerful parts of how we, even create space for change, because change is rapid. And in the last decade, change has been happening. But I think what we are on the precipice now of is such tremendous, tremendous change so quickly that our agile meter needs to be pretty high, all of us, in order to sustain that change. I think project managers, we understand this. Well trained, professionally developed ones, we do, because we're at the forefront of the changes and we see them coming. And we also see parts of our roles changing dramatically. Technology is creating that for us, and it's not about the fear of that. It's about, how do we get together and talk about, well, then how do we adjust? How, how do we adjust to continue to provide and work well, and yet not be afraid of the change and actually use it as an opportunity?
I absolutely love the not being afraid
Mm,
because, I mean, we've had the conversation before that anti-terrorism is not just about fighting uh, a movement; it's about fighting fear.
mhm,
It's about the notion that fear does not win.
Right.
We're not afraid of it. But what I really liked what you said there, change is moving at a rapid, rapid pace. And there are people who are feeling fear or uncertainty or maybe even loss with all this change.
Mm,
But you had a different word that you used, and I could see it having some of that cult like, but it's something shared in both worlds, and that's the notion of inspiration.
mm,
And how is it that when you go to conferences, you can look at this change because there's lots of change being presented at
mhm,
every conference I've been at. I've learned, oh wow, that's new things going on over there.
mhm.
Awesome. And inspiration. How have you found those two things marrying in that world?
So I'm gonna give you a C word, and, it's maybe not what you're expecting, commiseration. So commiseration, I always think about commiseration is when you have an opportunity to collectively be sad together, right? When we commiserate. And I think that's what it is. I think fear, for instance, is felt by everyone in different stages, yes, depending on the situation, but we all experience fear. Rapid change brings fear out in all of us as professionals, but at different stages. But it also gives us an opportunity to commiserate with one another with the fact that the change is happening to all of us. And commiseration, I liken it to like a lose-lose. You know, we always use the expression win-win. We want a win-win. Well, I don't believe in that. Because a win-win is just the positive side of what actually means lose-lose. Because if in order for both parties to win, they also have to lose. And I would argue that commiseration or the loss, the shared loss is a stronger human connection than a shared win. And the reason is because we all can't get the gold medal. Winning, ultimate winning, the gold medal only goes to one side. But if we are all losing, it's a it's a it's a common point we can all kind of fret together about, and that builds connection. So I think commiseration is often a really great strength point. I think then too, you get to share, well, what are you most in fear of? What am I most in fear of? And there'll be different things. Same situation, but we'll fear it differently. And us sharing that kind of commiseration or loss point is stronger. I think there is something about the human condition that does. I think our empathy kicks in when both parties are losing something. I think we're more empathetic potentially because we know the pain it's feeling to us, and so we can go, "Oh, well, I can see you feel pain too." Different situation, but the commiseration with one another can be really helpful. I saw a lot of conversations in Ottawa where we actually were commiserating. You know, chapter leaders talking to other chapter leaders about not so nice things going on in their chapters. And I'm like, yeah, you were commiserating with one another. And what did that make you feel? Less alone. You just go, oh, it's not just me. And immediately everyone around the table or in that conversation goes, oh, okay. Because we can really think that we're alone in fear. And in reality, if we share that, if we're vulnerable enough to share our fears, the commiseration becomes an opportunity to connect.
I absolutely love that. I love that notion of I'm experiencing that too.
Yeah. Well, and that's inspiring. You know, you can be inspired by both being afraid. And what's inspiring about it is that you're not alone. Oh, I'm inspired by the fact that I came here thinking this was a really bad thing. I talked to 5, 6 other people and they're experiencing some version of the same. And now I realize I'm not alone. That actually can inspire you to keep going. And it can inspire those 5 people to have a conversation about what are we all going to do?
Mhm.
Right? It's the collaboration and the innovation point. It's how do we embrace curiosity to solve the challenge we're all experiencing? Yeah.
Yeah. So what I love about that, and as I'm hearing that, I just want to point out the two pieces that are both IQ and EQ.
Yes.
Not only are we learning the new things that we get to learn at the conference,
Mhm.
but we get to be that more fully human
Right.
when we're with each other,
Yes.
both in our highs, high five, awesome
Yes.
presentation, we loved it,
Yes.
and in our lows, because not everything at conferences is about high fiving each other.
No.
There's a whole bunch of, can you believe? Huh?
Yes, this is true. And that's also a great opportunity for us to commiserate with one another.
So I want to thank you for today. And any words of wisdom for someone thinking about going to a conference at PMI now?
I was going to say go. Just go. Go with an open mind and open heart and be willing to share yourself. because the actual beauty comes from your ability to be present, and be your honest self. Don't put on airs. It's not worth it, because in reality, the real treasure is in you sharing your honest self, and there will be others that will meet you there. I promise.
Then I look forward to the next conference you and I end up at. If you see either of us at a conference, please come
Yes,
up and share, because we'll share back.
absolutely,
And until
absolutely.
next time when we share the next podcast, thank you.
Thanks very much, Martin.